Hi, my name's Marc Yeats, and I thought I'd talk to you about timecode-supported polytemporal music. What is it? Well, the clue is in the title, really. Timecode-supported and polytemporal. Timecode is a way of marking clock time in the music, and clock time is marked at the bar, above each bar in minutes and seconds, and this runs continually throughout the piece. And the timecode is read in conjunction with the digital stopwatch on mobile phones, and this stopwatch has a timecode display as well. So at the beginning of a piece, everybody who's playing has their stopwatches to the ready. Someone gets up and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, push, and that will then start the timecode. The timecode is loosely synchronized between all of the stopwatches. There's no click tracks or anything like that. So the timecode runs, and the timecode along the music in the notation will run in conjunction with that. Now, the timecode is determined by the metronome mark and the bar lengths, and it is just a mathematical calculation that exists. So when you're playing at the metronome speed, and the metronome speed should fall within the timecode framework if you're playing at the correct metronome speed, not too fast, not too slow. I'll come back to that in a minute. Polytemporal basically means any stream of any parts of music where there is more than one simultaneous tempi. So in the music that I write, there can be anything from 2 to 114 or so simultaneous tempi. That's a lot of temporal density, all running simultaneously. When you're playing, like any normal piece of music, you will be playing within the set metronome marks, the speeds. And if you're playing absolutely bang on the speed, then you'll be playing bang on within the timecode, more or less, disregarding small amounts of human error. If you're playing too fast or you're playing too slow, then you will fall out with the timecode. And the way you know this when you're performing is by looking at the mobile phone stopwatch and glancing at the timecode at the top of the notation. And obviously, if you're out, if you're slightly too fast or you're slightly too slow, then you adjust your playing. So there's a flexibility there. It's not there's no expectation it's going to be precise, but there is a requirement to remain as close to the timecode framework as you possibly can. So when you come to rehearse this music, practice on your own, you approach it like any other music. You put your notation up, you get your instrument out, you look at the metronome marks, and you start playing, usually slower than is required, until you get used to it. So as your speed builds up, you're getting closer and closer to the specified metronome marking. Once you feel comfortable with the material, with its technical requirements, everything's under your fingers, it's then a good time to actually put the timecode on, as it were, to put the stopwatch on, and to play in association with the mobile phone stopwatch. And this will give you a better sense of how you're actually positioning your performance, how you're mediating it within the timecode framework. And that timecode framework it's sort of like your guarantee to know that you're in the right place in the piece of music at the right time. Now, why do I write music like this, I suppose, is the obvious question. Why don't I use conductors? Why don't I use click tracks? Well, timecode-supported polytemporal music enables me to do two things: to write extremely temporally dense pieces of music where every single instrument has its own tempi. And secondly, I can do this without over-complexifying or making notation more complex. And this is because with other composers who use multiple pulse streams in a given piece of music, within a synchronized score format, which is governed by one metronome mark at a particular time, and all the bar lines go through all the different layers. They use, for example, different tuplets, multiple nested tuplets that can be layer upon layer upon layer, and these multiple nested tuplets can make the notation rhythmically very, very complex to navigate. If you've got independent, decoupled parts where they're not synchronized into an overall score, then it means that the notation doesn't have to become more complex the more different the speed is from all the surrounding layers of music. You change the metronome marking, you don't need to change the notation. The obvious consequence of this is that there is no score, because you cannot really line up, say, 50 different speeds of music with different tempi in a score, where the players are mediating this with a degree of flexibility and expect that anything you're going to get in the score is going to resemble what you hear. So I haven't bothered with the score. It's too much work for me to prepare, but more importantly, it's not actually useful to players. Also, there are no conductors, because this music isn't like Gruppen, for instance, where you have three groups of separately conducted music that are brought together. I'm looking at every single instrument being independent. So the role of a conductor to give a particular beat or pulse to the music that everybody could use is no longer relevant. The timecode provides the framework. The timecode is, if you like, a sort of conductor that you keep half an eye on, that always beats seconds, no matter what tempi the music is in. So no conductor, no score, and this music is performed from parts alone. That's why you will only ever get parts of this music. And because of this, it's very difficult to know what the music is until it's performed. You won't know in advance. You can't look at a score and say, ah, yes, I know what this is and I know where this bit goes. The music is revealed through performance. It's revealed through sound. The parts are all fully notated. I mean, they are very, very detailed. Everything is there. But the way they are brought together in time has a slightly flexible nature. Now, I do this because I'm interested in the way each performance will have an iteration. Each performance will be slightly different from the other. And in doing this, I anticipate that the mediation, what the players do, the rendering of the piece, will always be recognisable to me, in as much as my construct, my model, remains a recognisable aspect, even though the flexibility of the rendering is going to be slightly different with each performance. And I use the analogy of a wobbly jelly to describe this, because I think it works quite well. My compositional model sits within various kinds of software, and it's absolutely perfectly placed within clock time. It is the ultimate perfection of the piece that is not possible to be performed by human beings, because you cannot duplicate the accuracy of it. And I don't want anybody to. What I'm interested in is how that model is mediated, how it becomes flexible, how it becomes humanized in each performance. So if you imagine a jelly sitting on a plate, a jelly which is in the shape of a castle, for instance, with all the nice little turrets. When that jelly sits on the plate, it's absolutely still, fixed in all its structure. And that is my model. When that model is mediated in performance by all sorts of different players producing their speeds slightly differently, and the different alignments, the vertical alignments of all the material being slightly different, then the jelly will wobble very, very slightly like this. And this is exactly what I want. It remains recognisable. I can still see the jelly as a castle, but the shape is flexible. There's flux, there's indeterminacies in all these different bits and pieces that are going on. If it goes like that and wobbles around too much, then the structure is lost, and that isn't what I want at all. I've tried in the past using no time code and just metronome as guidance for players in various structures. And the results have always been relatively wayward. Different performers have different concepts of what speeds are at different times in the same piece even. And it means that the structure, although a structure is produced, the structure isn't the structure that I'm looking for. It becomes too indeterminate, and I'm more interested in control. I want to control these pieces as much as I can to get the structure that I want. But I share that control with the performers who are mediating and rendering the piece, so that together, the structure that is produced is, as I keep saying, recognisable, but an iteration, a variation of what I want. So finally, just a little bit about practicing. As I was saying before, when you're practicing, you're practicing on your own, you get a sense of the environment of your particular line. You get the speeds, you get the materials, you get the stopwatch on, and you get that all together. When you come together with the ensemble or the orchestra, then you're placed into a completely different sound environment. And this can be slightly intimidating because these sound environments are very busy, they're very complex, there's lots and lots of layers going on, lots of activity, and you need to kind of find your own way within that. There's no common pulse, of course, so your sense of your pulse that you had when you were practicing is going to be challenged by all sorts of other pulses going on around it. However, you do have the time code, and the time code is a reliable framework for you and all the other players, and that will help you locate where you are in the piece. It'll help to hold that structure together to prevent too much what I call temporal drift. We don't want the whole thing going, as I say, into a sort of wayward structure that isn't recognisable. You have flexibility, but that flexibility is confined within the time code, more or less. So these big pieces, I say big in sense of temporal density, are brought together by everybody practicing in the normal way. Practice a piece several times over. Sometimes I've found that people who've played my music do smaller sectionals, get those together, discover the relationships, sonic relationships that are going on there, and then bring together into the fuller ensemble. All these sorts of things mean that the players become acclimatized to the environment of the piece, and then you're ready to go with it. Finally, I'd just like to say that if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to contact me. I will help you in any way I can to get to grips with the music. I think it's all very self-explanatory. There are good instructions within the individual parts. There's some text here on the Composer's Edition site, along with this video. And there are also lots of videos of performances of my Timecode-Supported Polytemporal music throughout this site. There's also my website. So just contact me, email me, contact me on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you like. If you have any questions at all, I'm more than happy to help you out and make it as clear as I am. When performers perform this music, they first of all say it's really quite scary because it's going against all the things they've done before. There's no conductor, there's none of your normal sort of ensemble things going on, and none of the normal securities around playing. But they say once they've done it, the liberation that comes and the sense of achieving a really complex virtuosic structure without the use of a conductor, purely through what the players are doing themselves, is quite a buzz, and they come back for more. They want more pieces. They want to perform more work like this. So although it has its challenges, I would say from a musical point of view, it's very much moving in the direction of the mediation of players and sharing responsibility with the players and allowing them to have their flexibility of expression within playing. So please enjoy. Please contact me if you need anything else. Thank you.